Welcome to the Inner Entrepreneur, a place where soul meets strategy and passion meets profit. Success in business is about more than mastering the external, it's an internal game. Ready to play? Hello, and welcome back to the Inner Entrepreneur. I'm Brandon Ward with my co host, Paul Ryan.
Good morning, Brandon. Good to see you again.
You as well, sir. Good afternoon for you, us
It
being
is
on different parts of the world.
a cold
Excited to be back
afternoon.
in it.
A cold afternoon, I can tell you.
It's cold here too.
It's
It
pretty.
got well below freezing last night,
Oh,
so our
wow.
heating system was working hard. So,
Okay. Yeah. Well. Okay. Yeah. It's pretty cold here as well, but that's
yep,
winter.
that's right. That's and like we said, I think we recorded before. We were talking about the seasons. It's nice to enjoy all of them.
It
So
is.
for different reasons, for
Yes.
different reasons.
Absolutely.
Well, Paul, I'm excited about today's topic. It's something it's always been on my mind, and it's something that I've been very passionate about around business and ethics.
Hmm.
So today we're going to be talking about the ethics of business. And my aim and our aim together is to offer an alternative perspective, I think, to the way a lot of businesses are ran, because ethics are crucial to the way a business is ran and how it's going to influence the community, your customers, your team, and all of those things. So I'm very pumped about this topic in this episode.
It's when you think of ethics in business, it's just something that's to me is very simple and just makes sense. And it makes me wonder why people do business in an unethical way. What's their what's their motive? Because when I look at ethics in business, I'm going to say it's almost selfish. Because if you run a business ethically and you engage with your people ethically and you engage with your customers ethically, you get loyalty. You get loyal customers, you get loyal people, which is better for business. So even a selfish individual should go, tell you what, I'm going to run my business ethically because it makes sense. So, but I know it's a topic that's been that you're very passionate about, which makes me feel like you've had some experiences of unethical business. Is that your sense that a lot of businesses don't operate ethically?
Yeah, and it's I have had a lot of experiences working for, to be honest, unethical businesses. Now, that's not all the businesses that I've worked for. I have worked for
Course.
some great companies and great leaders. So, I don't want
Yeah,
to
of course.
if you go look at my LinkedIn profile, that doesn't mean that every company that I have on my
They're
LinkedIn
not mentioned.
profile.
They're not mentioned.
Yeah. No. Yeah, most probably the reality is the ones that are not so good are probably not going to be on there,
Mm,
but I've had experiences working at companies that were unethical from my perspective. I've also engaged with companies that are very unethical from as a customer.
mm,
I've had friends that have talked to me about unethical businesses.
mm.
We've shared some stories together too. It's just I think, and you mentioned it as well. I love that point you brought up at the top of the show, is just the fact that it actually is selfish and you end up doing better in the long run when you run an ethical business.
Yeah.
The challenge is people are penny wise and pound foolish. They have a short sighted vision, and that often creates unethical decisions, that creates unethical environments, and that leads to failing businesses and lacks in profits and many things that end up happening over time. But to your point, people don't realize that they're only thinking about the money, or they're only thinking about what they can get now. And I think that short-sighted perspective limits the upside and value and contributions that businesses can offer to a community and to the owners of those businesses
Mm.
financially, from a wealth perspective and freedom-wise. Because
Yeah.
loyalty, to your point, is it's for you, it's the biggest, I think it's the biggest difference maker in the times that we've been talking, especially now that we have a bit of a
Mm.
catalog of shows together. That loyalty and that determination that your team has for you as a leader and a business owner is one of the key factors as to why you've been able to create the success that you have.
I think maybe so. And maybe I've said this before. I mean, when I look at the people who work for me, what management or staff, um, I make the assumption that none of them actually work for me. No one gets out of bed in the morning and drives into my office to make Paul Ryan rich. Nobody does it. It's not what they think of. They get out of bed because they have a partner, a wife, husband, whatever. They have children, they have a mortgage to pay, and they're doing exactly what you and I and almost every human being is doing. Is they're trying to make the best of their life. And part of that life for almost everyone is they need a career and they need to make a living. And so they get out of bed and their motive is, you know, we're going to pay we're going to pay the mortgage, we're going to take the family on holiday, we're going to that's their motivation. Um and therefore they look for employment somewhere. Uh as an employer, you select that person, you offer employment, but you understand, or at least I understand, that that's their motive. Now, if that's their motive, all I need to do is to align my motives with their motives. That simply and so that simply means, okay, well, the first thing in that I think is making sure you employ someone who matches, who is a match for you, culture wise, and we've spoken about culture in previous episodes. Culture wise, value wise in your business, you're looking for a match, and you're looking for the aptitude match, and you're looking for the skill match. And once you have that, then you're creating an environment. So if you've got a really, really good person that really has the good skill, really has the good attitude, and you really want this person in your business, now you're creating an environment. But you're creating an environment that does two things. You're creating an environment that enables them to support their values. And their values is make a good income and provide for the family. So first you're ticking that box. You're ticking that box. You want to hopefully pay them more than they can get somewhere else. I'm not saying you have to pay them crazy money, but if someone is looking through whatever the website is, or someone contacts them and they mention a figure, they go, I'm earning 10% more than that. Do you know what I mean? So you never want them, you never want money to be a reason for them to leave. Also, in our organization, everyone, and I don't know whether you're the CEO or whether you're packing vans, you're in a bonus system. If the company does well, you're rewarded. So every member of staff is incentivized for the company to perform well. And as you know, culture is hugely important. So we're trying to create a nice environment. So someone comes to a job for me, I'm very conscious this is their motive, and I want them going home in an evening, sitting with their partner and going, "Hey, I'm very well paid in this company. It's a nice place. It's a nice place to be." We pay bonuses to most staff just before the end of the year when we see our results are in, and I want those people going home for their Christmas holidays or whatever and going, you know, it was a great year in the business, but boom, look at the bonus I got. We're taking the kids to Disneyland or whatever it is. But I think on the so understanding that, so ethically, then you're going, well, you're treating your people very, very, very well. I've shared stories before with friends and stuff, and of how we treat people in the business. Going, oh, I'd love to come and work for you, compared to how they're treated, and I go, it makes sense. Those people are doing what they're doing motivated by how they want to get on in their lives. And all I'm doing is aligning that up. So you get to do this for the business, which is good for me, and it works well for you. And that creates a win-win. So for me, the ethics of that. So that seems like it's a very ethical way to run the business, that you treat people very fairly, you treat them with respect, all of these things. But it comes down to good business. It's the first thing. We did a whole lengthy session on burnout. And one of the ways to avoid burning out is to have really good people working for you, who are highly motivated to run your business for you and make profit for you. And why are they motivated to do that? Because it's in the nicest possible way, it's in their very best interest to do that. That's as simple as I can say it.
It's interesting though, Paul, because that's what, while not loyal to you, Paul Ryan, the human
Mm,
that has a family and has created wealth for himself and has the business that you built, they're loyal to the way the CEO, Paul Ryan, runs that business, the way that you understand human psychology
mm,
and the needs that we have as humans. Humans are naturally self-interested.
mm,
It's healthy to have interest in yourself and your well-being
Mm.
and to care for your family. Those are all honorable traits. So to build a business, honoring and aligning with human nature is the ethical component. And the byproduct is a loyalty to the way that you run that business. So while they're not loyal to making Paul Ryan rich, they're loyal to themselves, to their family. But you've created that environment that allows them to thrive in a way that aligns both your interest and their interest. And to me, and I love that you said that because that is the ethical way to do it. But it's not that they're loyal to you, Paul Ryan,
Mm.
it's the structure that you've created, the culture that you've created, the leadership style that you carry, the way that you honor them, the way that you allow them to thrive in a situation when they do their job at a high level and
Yeah.
then they're rewarded for that. That to me, but so many people miss on that. They don't even recognize first and foremost, you've got to get the human nature part right. People are naturally self-interested. I can't tell you how many mastermind groups that I've been in, Paul, and you've shared some of this too,
Yes.
where people are talking about how bad the people are and all of these things.
Yeah.
And they're not recognizing first and foremost human nature. People care about themselves.
Yeah.
They all must do that. They don't care about us as business owners. They don't. Now, over time they do.
Yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
certain that the people that have you work for you care about you because of what you've done for them as an employer though.
Mm.
Not because
Yeah. I'm not trying
they
to be their
necessarily
friend.
like you
Yeah.
or they're your friend,
But I
right?
think, it's a very good point. Um, Loyalty comes as well on an individual basis. And I think a couple of podcasts back related the story of standing up in front of my staff in the early days of COVID in Ireland. And we had some very serious lockdowns here, I think a lot
Mhm.
stricter than you had. So we literally had a situation where we were told business close. So I remember going in and standing in front of my staff, just kind of going, don't know what's going on here. Don't know what's ahead. Don't know what's ahead of us. I don't know if we're closed for a day or for a year. I just don't know. I don't know what that means for anyone. And leaving that staff presentation and going back to my office and getting emails back from people going, Paul, we have your back. I know this is very difficult for you. Whatever you have to do, we have your back. Now, right or wrong, I see that as personal loyalty. I see that as people going, this guy is under a lot. This is a really difficult position for him to be in as the leader of this business. And I've been here for 20 years and he's been very good to me. And I mean, those emails that came to me going, Paul, whatever it takes, we have your back. That's that's huge. So I think loyalty comes just like anyone who treats you with respect, loyalty. Maybe the word's not loyalty, but certainly I think a mutual respect develops, and they've seen that you have their best interest in heart, and and they will have your best interest in heart. It's just human nature. I think.
Well, and Paul, when you're describing that, I think of not necessarily loyalty per se, but as an honor. When you honor people, when you treat them in an honorable way,
Mm.
when you honor their work ethic, when you create a business, an environment that allows people to thrive, who are good workers, who work hard, who are
Yeah,
dedicated, who are honest, who
yeah,
tell you the truth,
yeah,
even though it may be a hard truth. I think
yeah.
that's having sycophants in your company does not help if you're
No,
genuine about wanting to grow a great
no,
company. And a great company again is defined how we define that.
big
That could be
time.
a $1 million company. It could be a $500,000 company. You could have 2 staff if you want. Like there's no
Whatever you want.
standard.
No.
Exactly. We've made that very clear, I think, in
Mm.
past episodes
I think
too,
that's really important. Yeah.
to define your own version of
Mm.
success as you want in your company. But but that's what this is about. And I think that's again though the understanding first the inner dynamics of human nature, that we are self-interested and that to create an environment where people can thrive. And when you seek good honorable people and you treat them with honor through your actions, it's
Mm.
not lip service.
Yeah.
These people don't show up, Paul, because you say nice flowery things.
No.
They show up
No.
because you pay them well, they have
Yeah.
good benefits, they get bonuses. If
Yes.
they need something, they're honored. That's
Yes.
it. And so
Mm.
action always speaks louder than words,
Action
especially as an
reveals you.
entrepreneur.
It reveals you.
It does, exactly. It shows you it shows your truth. And so I think as entrepreneurs and leaders in your companies, we have to know first and foremost that actions above all, define who we are as a leader. And if we say one thing and we don't align with our actions with what we're saying, trust is broken. And that's actually a piece that we're going to talk a bit about too is trust and how to leverage that component around ethics. But I think a couple of things too, because we've spoken quite a bit here, and I'm looking about the some of the points that we have here dialed in, is when we run unethical businesses, it affects everyone. It affects our own bottom line, our own financial
Mhm.
situation. It affects our team members. It affects our customers. It affects our communities. The experiences that I've had, Paul, the bad experiences ripple out. And I think that's why as entrepreneurs, the opportunity to create great wealth and build businesses, it's a huge responsibility though, because when you mess that up, you can really muck things up for a lot of people. And I think that's why the ethics is such a passionate component for me. Because frankly, Paul, I'm sick of people having this incredibly privileged position that often is created. Like
Understand.
when you build a business, that's a responsibility. Maybe privilege
Yeah.
isn't the right word, but
Mhm.
responsibility
Well,
that we have is
it is a privilege as well. It is a privilege as
okay.
well. Yeah, and
So that's fair to say, right?
I think it's fair to say, and I think the more privileged you become, the less privileged you realize you are, because you look at the privilege you live in and you think it's the norm. You don't look around you and go, "Do you know, I'm incredibly privileged." So yeah, you know, it's a first world thing. I'm incredibly privileged to live the way I am, the way I live. So I do think it is a privilege. It's my thought.
But so knowing that, I think we have to, as leaders and entrepreneurs and business owners, we have to understand the responsibility that we hold and the privilege that we hold in those positions, right? And that's why ethics are such a crucial component to understand at a deep level as an owner or a leader, because without it, you can easily make things hard for everyone around you. And that's what happens. That's what ends up happening is when you run an unethical business, when you run a short-sighted business, everyone suffers. And we have some stories we're going to get into to share some
Yeah.
examples on the poor ethics side of that. But
And
really it leads, I think, around short-term decision making that erodes profitability and the health of the business over the long run. That's ultimately what ends up coming out of that. But Paul, I'm excited to talk about some of the I think what we've dialed in here is the four pillars of a business and how they all play together.
yeah, and I think maybe not every business has them, but most businesses do. Um, a business will have stakeholders, and that could be if there's partners in the business or a few shareholders in the business. So a business has stakeholders in the business. So if you're CEO of a business, you may have business partners, you may have shareholders in the business. They're stakeholders in the business, whether they're not involved in the business or not. The stakeholders in the business. That's one pillar of a business, and then a business has people, staff, which to me, by the way, is the most important pillar of a business, that you have they have good people. And then you have your clients. You have no business without the clients. And then you have, certainly in our situation, we have partners. And those partners are supply chain partners, because we don't manufacture products, but we distribute products. So as I'm a CEO and owner of a business, I'm looking at those four pillars of a business, and I engage with each of those. I engage with shareholders in the business. I engage with the people. I engage with clients, and I engage with partners, with supply. Now, as it is at the moment, I very rarely engage with a client directly, almost never. People that do that, and I don't really engage with partners directly, or very rarely. But I set the tone of how we engage with those people. And to me, what is the ethics of a business really mean? Because we're simple people. So what does ethics mean? To me, the ethics of our business is, how do we engage with all of those people? So maybe not the stakeholders, maybe is a separate thing. But when you're talking about a business, how do I engage with the people who are employed by me, who are in the business? How do we engage with the clients we have, and how do we engage with the partners we have? So in our business, we just have a kind of a win-win ethos of dealing with everyone around that table of those pillars. So everyone, and now we put people at the top. By the way, people are the most important part of the business, because I've always believed if you get the people right, then they will look after your customers and they will look after the partners. And
Well, they touch every point of the business, don't they? Your people are the business.
yeah, yeah. Have you ever gone into a restaurant and met with a disgruntled employee?
It's a terrible experience. It can be bad. Like it's
How
pretty
does that
quick.
work out?
You
Yeah.
know when someone's having a bad day, it can ruin the entire experience.
Yeah. Can I ask you the opposite question? Have you ever gone into to a restaurant you know is a good restaurant and the food is not great, but you get a server that is
Oh,
just super? How
you almost
forgiving.
don't even care. It's almost like, you know what? Things happen.
Yeah.
That's fine. You're
Yes,
right. It does.
it
But that's
does.
people,
That's people.
not things.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making. That's people. So if you get the people right, if you get the right people, and if you treat them right, we can use words like ethics. It sounds fancy. If you treat them right as human beings, it's just like you're trying to get through this life and help them best you can. If that, I don't run a retail business, so I don't run a restaurant or anything, but it seems simple to me. If I have staff that I pay well and they're in a happy environment, they're looked after well, and they feel valued and feel cared for, how will they engage with my people? How will they engage with clients? It seems very obvious. Um, we take it all the way around, and I remember a story, and this story is maybe about 15 years old. But so we deal with some global manufacturers who would come to Ireland and go, "Who's going to distribute our product set in Ireland first?" And you would partner with it. These could be billion-dollar businesses, but they need someone to distribute their product. So that's effectively what we do. A few things. One is we only work with a small number of partners for two reasons. We want to be important to them, and we want them to be important to us. So if I have half a dozen partners and we get knocks on the door every day from people going, "Hey, we did distribute our product, will you sell this?" Because they know we're a good route into the market. We're very, very loyal. We've a few key partners we deal with, because if we've only one or two partners in a particular area, we can do lots of business as opposed to breaking it up. I suppose we can do lots of business. And when you're doing lots of business with someone, you become very important to them. And so they're very important to us as a partner, but we're very important to them. So you've created this relationship, and then we engage. So when we're selling to, hey, I'm in the business of making money. Do not get me wrong. So what does that mean? That means when I'm selling to a customer, I want to make as much profit as I can, obviously. And when I'm buying from a supplier, I want to get the best cost I can. That's a given, but that does not mean that I don't treat both fairly. So when we're dealing with a partner, all of those people in that change have to make profit out of it, out of a deal, which means whoever's supplying to you, it has to be profitable for them. If it's not, they just won't want to do business with you. It has to be profitable for us, or we won't want to do it, and it has to be profitable for our customers, because our customer is taking our product and it's going into a big contracting installation. There if I have a customer who always wants to kill us on price, and just is only interested in the cheap price, I don't want them as a customer, because they're not respecting what we're doing as a business. Accept the fact they need value, but they're not respecting that. But likewise, if we have partners and we're not interested in them being profitable, we just want to get the cheapest price off them. That's a one-time affair. You just annoy people. So I think as owner of a business, you've got to support those four pillars. But the common sense of it is now you have cooperation. So you have your staff want to look after you well, your clients who really enjoy doing business with you because you're a fair, straight operator, and partners. Some of the partners we have that we've been distributing for, we've been working with them for decades, and it, I mean, it just makes common sense, and to some degree, I think ethics is an important conversation, but there's also a question of eh, why why would you do something different? What would be your and short? I mean, you said it earlier. Short sightedness, I think, is the only reason for doing something different, but it doesn't make sense.
Well, Paul, I think two things for me that come out as I was listening to you is it's two separate paths. We have the fear-based path, which is a
Yeah.
zero-sum game path,
Yeah.
which is I'm going to dominate the market. I'm going to do whatever I can to get what I need
Mm.
because again, we are self-interested. But if we don't understand the dynamic that all humans are self-interested, so the other party that you're engaging with is
Yeah.
also looking out for their
Mm.
self. That's the honorable, respectable path.
Mm.
The fear-based path says I'm only going to look out for myself. I
Mm.
don't care the impact that it has on other people. I don't care the impact that it has on my customers, my partners, my team. That's what the way we operate a lot is based on that fear-based mode, the survival of the fittest concepts, a lot of these things that we've heard over our lifetimes.
Mm.
And there's a lot of truth to natural selection and the way
Yes.
our scientific components of our world works and the way we evolve as a species. But what you just described is an elevated way of living, which is based on cooperation and mutual respect. It's a different path. And I think I love the way you shared that because that's what we're describing. Ethics comes down to how you're going to operate your business from a perspective of are you going to be solely self-interested and drive from fear? You're going to create fear in your community, you're going to create fear in your team, you're going to engage with your partners in short-sighted ways, or are you going to operate in an elevated way which says we're going to mutually respect one another? I understand you want to run a profitable business, I do too. So how can we both win? It's based on mutual respect. So when I think about what you just described, Paul, it's those two paths, that fear-based path versus that respect path.
I think though, when you look at how we've evolved as human beings, we have survived and dominated the planet, and maybe that's not a good thing, but it's a different conversation. But
Mhm.
we have survived and thrived as a species because of our ability to cooperate and communicate. That's a
That's it.
simple thing. If you if you lived in a tribe over I mean, what human beings on the planet 250 million years or something. Through all of those, well, you know, through all of that time, we survived because of community. We didn't survive solo. In the modern world, it's easier maybe to survive a solo because maybe we feel less dependent day to day on other people. But if you're in a tribe environment, you survive because you work together as a team. You've got the strongest hunter. You've got the older woman who looks after the children, so the younger women can do work, and you've all of this community that works together, and that's how it thrives. Um,
Paul, can I say something real quick though? I just want to say something real quick
mm,
because what you just shared is important. Is in the modern world, it seems like we
yes,
have all this
it
sovereign
appears.
power independently
Yeah.
because but we don't realize that there are truck drivers that move our food
Yes.
back and forth. There are farmers that raise those cows that cultivate the food that
Yes.
get them to the grocery stores. There are clerks at the stores that stock the shelves every day. I was one of them at one
Yes.
point in my life where I was doing the late night shifts.
Yeah.
So it appears that we
It,
are independent, but we're not, man.
we're
We are
not,
so interconnected. And so
but
it's important to recognize
we've
that at every
forgotten it,
right?
maybe, Brandon. Isn't that it? We've forgotten it.
Yep. I think that's why this concept of ethics is so important because it's not it like you said earlier, it sounds lofty, but it's actually very common sense and
Yeah.
that interconnected cooperation has always been a part of our
It's how we
evolution and
thrive.
survival as a
It's how we
species.
survive.
Yep.
Yeah. And I agree. It's a delusion to think. Uh, it's a delusion for me to think that I can run a successful business without great people working for me, who, whether I'm there or not, are self motivated to do the very best they can for the business. Their motivation is not to make me rich. Their motivation is to do the best lives for themselves. But over a period of time, maybe many years, I'm going to say conditioned, but they've come to a conclusion that the best thing for me to do at my time, career wise, is to put my efforts in here because it's a good place to work. I'm treated well. I'm treated as a person. I'm a human being, and I get well rewarded. By the way, the more successful I make this company, the more successful I become. It just so happens that it benefits me as well, but that's it. Just so happens, as long as you treat people fairly. I think it that's fundamentally how, as a society, we were made to work. And I wonder, as you're talking there, I was thinking a little bit about I'm interested in trading, and I won't say trading, sorry, investing in the stock market. And when people find out you're interested in the stock market, they like to talk about, do you think there's a recession coming? Do you think there's this and all this sort of stuff? And my answer is, well, I don't know. I don't know. Who's it said prediction is very difficult, particularly when it comes to the future. So, you know,
Very
so,
tough.
I don't know, but what I've learned over the years is that, but the reason, oh, you're not concerned about there might be a crash in here. I'm going, well, I'm not concerned because my investment horizon is probably a minimum of 15 years, 10 years, absolute minimum. So I'm not really concerned about the ups and downs. But then you get a horde of people who want to trade the markets. But that's the short term gain. It's the up and down, it's the in and out. And what we know is that 99% of those over the long term lose money. It's almost impossible. But there is that human need for, I don't know what, that quick fix. I think it's the same. I think it's the same in business. Eh, I take a very long term view over the business. Our business has been there decades, and the sensible. I had a presentation last week in town, and I was at it, and I was watching. We had about 25 clients there, and my manager was speaking, and they were talking, thanking them for the business they've done this year. But as she was doing her speaking, I was thinking, I was looking around the room, I was thinking, at least three of these companies here have been doing business with us for 2 to 3 decades. So you're thanking them for last year's business. I'm looking and thinking, thank you for being with me for almost 3 decades. So, but
That's not
also,
an accident.
no, the partner in the room, now they've been acquired by different businesses over the years because they're a very big company. But the partner, the supplier who was hosting the event in conjunction with us, I'm going to say a relationship that goes back, I can't remember exactly, maybe 2 decades. So as I'm standing in that room, I'm seeing relationships I've nurtured with partner supplier and with clients reaching back over a couple of decades. The really interesting, so there's a really strong bond of trust, loyalty, win-win in that situation. And of course, the interesting thing for me is that I'm the owner of the business. I was invited along to this event. My manager set the whole thing up. I have very, very little, almost nothing to do now to maintain those relationships. I have other people that maintain those relationships. But there's so much history there, there's so much positive momentum that those relationships are maintained extremely well by other people now. If I took an unethical approach to the business, none of that would exist. That room
Mhm.
would be empty. Why? Because no customer stays with you 25 years if you rip them off or you don't treat them well.
So
No partner continues doing business with you if you don't respect them. And the
nope.
team that I have in that room of brilliant people taking care of those customers and partners, those people don't stay with you. So if I had an unethical or greedy approach, I'd be standing. It was actually a small ship we hired on the River Liffey. It was a lovely event. I would have been standing in that on my own. But because of how we've done business over the decades, that's the long-term investor. The long-term investor always trumps over the short-term investor. The other thing I say is, with the investing analogy, the long-term investor, if you've invested widely, almost never fails. Over a long period of time, their success is enormous. So if you go into a business and you go, I'm gonna have, good relationships, moral, ethical relationship, win-win, trust-based with integrity with all of these people, you're gonna really have to mess up to fail.
Yeah, you're gonna have to work real
You're gonna
hard
have to
because
work hard to mess it up.
well, and that could be probably because you have some kind of bad habit outside of the business, like gambling or drinking or any of these other
Yes,
things that can nuke something like
I
that.
have witnessed that. I have witnessed that as well. Yeah.
Same, same. And it's interesting, Paul, because I think when we think about ethics and the way we're talking about it now is the way human nature operates is through cooperation, mutual
Yep.
respect. That's actually the way we operate. And I think we've been sold a bill of goods, a lie
Yes.
around this survival of the fittest, this fear-based way of operating that it's only about the profits and you have to make the profits. Profits keep businesses going. I understand that. It's not, we don't negate the importance of
Yeah.
profitability. But if you don't do it with a mutual respect component, with an honorable path,
Mm.
which is the ethical path from our perspective, the business will fail. It absolutely will fail. But if you do it in an honorable way, it's almost impossible not to succeed. It really is if you take that long term path.
I heard a nuance recently on the survival of the fittest, and the speaker said it's not survival of the fittest. What it means is what fittest means is the most adaptable. Um,
That's it.
and that's it. Because at the end of the day, life is in flux, life is changing. If you're and as a business or an individual, if you're not learning, I mean, we're obsessive learners. You're not continually learning, and it's true. You're not continually learning and adapting. You you you're not going to grow as a business or as an individual. I think when you talk about the fittest, does that mean I have to be fitter than you? I have to beat you. Adaptability is more as a team of people. Obviously, our business is continually evolving. I remember again, reminded of being in another function many years ago, and a business owner came up to me, and I have a good customer, still a good customer of ours, and he mentioned a competitor of ours, and he said to me, "Paul, I can see your strategy is to put them out of business. I can see you're in line to put this competitors out of business." And I said, "Absolutely not." I said, "I've no interest in putting them out of the business. I wish them the very best." I said, "To be honest with you, I don't think about them much. I, I don't give them that much thought." I said, "Why would I?" I said, "What I do is I look at this business and I run the very best business I can." I said, "If as a consequence of I have a consequence of that, that impacts on them and they go out of business, that's on them for not doing. But I will do nothing negative towards them. That's not my vibe. It's not how I do things. I will run the very best business I can. If they struggle, that's on them. It's not on me." That's just interesting how people think. I would never focus on harming a competitor. I will only ever focus on what I what I can do better. That's just seems to make sense to me. Why would I put my energy into damaging someone else? Put that energy into getting better yourself.
Exactly. Well, and that's again, that's the long-term perspective. The short-term view, fear-based path is
Yeah.
harm. And I love that you brought up the component of the survival of the fittest because that's also the perspective on evolution that I share is it's the and Darwin himself believed that it was the most adaptable, not
Yes.
his definition of the fittest was the most adaptable species.
Yeah.
Because if it was the survival of the fittest, the dinosaurs would still be around. They didn't adapt. That's why
Yeah.
they went away.
Yeah.
Species that don't adapt
Yeah.
don't thrive. They don't continue to evolve. That's the distinction between humans is that we've evolved and adapted to our environment over time. And so I love that you said that because it's a huge misconception about having to be a blunt force object in the world, dominating,
Mm.
controlling. There's
Yeah.
this whole idea around, killing your competitors,
Yeah.
all that. It's very I think it's very toxic, obviously.
It's based around this sense of lack, isn't it? That
It
there's not
is. Scarcity. Yep.
scarcity, that there's just not enough. And you made the point earlier of saying even in this modern world we can't survive by ourselves, um, because every component of life we're in cooperation with someone else. Watching a TV show the other evening. I'm not sure if it's come up in the States, called The Gilded Age. I don't know if you've seen it. So it's based
Hmm.
it's based in New York. I'm going to say 100 years ago, when there was a, a massive divide between the extremely wealthy and everyone else who was poor. There's
Mm.
still a divide between the rich and poor, but not to the same extreme. But the extremely wealthy, in it's how it's portrayed here, is they saw themselves as superior. So if you were wealthy, you were superior, and if you were a servant or something, you were inferior. I said to my wife, "Is that how people actually operated? Did you actually look at a servant or someone who was waiting your table and see them as inferior? Because there's something toxic in that as well. I mean, every human being has the right to life, and to me, as humans, all humans are equal. But in our world for the past, I don't know, 100 years, 150 years, we've measured, or longer, we've measured people by their wealth. And so when someone lives in a bigger home, has a bigger car, seems to have more, do they somehow perceive themselves as superior? I suppose if you have that attitude of superiority, then you will look at the people that work for you as inferior, and that leads to a whole thing. If you have a sense of we're all human beings, and I think it's actually difficult to find someone, I'm going to say, better or worse than you. What it is easy to find is that, hey, Brandon, I ride a bike. I don't think you ride a bike. You've never mentioned it. So possibly if I take you out for a ride and I say, let's do a 100K ride tomorrow, I know you
You're
tried,
gonna
he's
whoop my
not going to,
butt.
huh? I'm going
You're
to,
gonna whip my butt though.
I'm going to, so if how we measure you and I is Paul's superior to Brandon, then you go, do you play football, Paul? No, let's have a game.
That's exactly.
Now you're kicking my ass. So when I look at anyone, I look at people working for me. I mean, I always say I employ people who do the job better than I do because it's true. Employ people smarter than me. Um, and if you do that, treat those people well. So maybe that's it. Maybe some people have a sense of superiority. I don't know. But then I always think that a sense of superiority only emerges from a sense of inferiority. You have it
It
as
does.
you have a sense of inferiority, and therefore you want to lord it over other people. Um,
You're overcompensating, right? You're trying to overcompensate for what you feel inside.
yeah.
It's interesting, Paul. On the other show, my Order Within podcast, I had a really brilliant therapist on who focuses on narcissism. Like her whole
Yes, I saw
focus
the
is on
episode. Yeah.
narcissism. She's great,
Yeah.
Chelsea Brooke Cole. Shout out to Chelsea. But the whole component around narcissism is that people think they have this huge inflated sense of self. It's actually the opposite. They have
Yeah.
no sense of self.
Yeah.
And so they try to control and they try to dominate and they try to do all these things because deep inside they feel a huge sense of inferiority. So they have to overcompensate for that inferiority. So
Mm.
they do that by saying that they're superior, thinking they're superior. So Paul, I think to your point, that's a great thing to bring up because if we as business owners are thinking about ourselves like that or are thinking about our employees like I'm the business owner and I can't tell I've worked for people like this.
Mm.
I'm the business owner. You do what I say because it's my business and this is how it is and you work for me.
Yeah.
And there are hierarchies. I'm not trying to say that there's not
Mm.
hierarchies. There has to be. There has to be order and you need to have roles and
Well,
people
there's
need to do different
responsibilities,
things.
obviously. Yes, there's
Exactly.
responsibilities, but it doesn't make you superior or inferior to
No.
someone.
Exactly.
And it's a great point because this is the back to the concept of the inner entrepreneur. If you don't have that right inside, it's not working the real world. If it's an entrepreneur, you're a narcissist or you lack confidence, you will bring that into your business. You will feel threatened. Uh, I don't feel, I look at many people in my business who I think are incredibly talented and in many situations do a much better job than I do. I don't in any way feel threatened by that because I encourage those people. I acknowledge those people. I go, you're doing a super job. You do it so much.
Keep it up.
Keep it up. Keep it up. You win, I win. Um, and I'm honest when I go, you're doing a better job than I ever did when I was doing that. That's brilliant. But if you have confidence, I don't even like the word confidence. If you have a sense of peace in yourself, you go, yeah, back to the story. If I take Brandon cycling, I'm gonna look superior. If he takes me into the football pitch, he's gonna look superior. So maybe hello, we just have different talents. Maybe that's all. That's all. And that being the case, then I can be comfortable seeing you play football and go, I can't kick a ball of that. So, but I don't have resentment. Do you know what I mean? In that situation, because I'm going, Brandon has this talent and I don't have resentment because that's not my natural talent. But hey, I have a natural talent over here. I think
That's the beauty of life, Paul.
that is
That's
the
the
beauty.
beauty of life.
That
That
is
we
the
all
beauty.
have these different talents and
Yes.
strengths and different things to offer. Because if we didn't, how boring would the world be? Let me give you a quick example. Yesterday, we've got to replace the fire alarms in our home. and one of them, the whole upstairs started going off yesterday. And I'd never had that happen before. I didn't know how to turn it off. I was pushing the buttons, and normally that hushes them, but literally there was four of them going off upstairs. It's the most high pitch annoying sound. I'm
Yeah,
losing my
I'm
mind.
just glad we weren't recording at the time.
Yeah, that would have been terrible for us. And yes, it would have been bad. But I wasn't sure though, because they're also carbon monoxide detectors. So I
Yes,
knew
yeah.
it wasn't a fire. Sometimes when you're cooking, smoke
Yeah,
comes up, they go
yeah,
off.
sure.
It wasn't that, but they were all going off. We weren't sure that it wasn't carbon monoxide. So I don't know what to do. I tried everything I know how to do, but I get my family out of the house. I call the local fire department. They come and they check the house with their things. And they're like, look, everything, it's fine. You got a bad thing. You got to replace it. But if I didn't have the community, if I didn't have the help of other individuals who
Mm.
specialize in those
Yeah,
things,
their knowledge, yeah.
I'm lost. I'm
Yeah,
clueless. No clue. We
yeah,
have no can we go back in our house? Can we not? What's wrong? The point is, it's good that people are good at things that we're
yeah,
not.
yeah,
It doesn't make us inferior or superior, as you were saying. It just means that we all have strengths and talents. And the more we can cultivate those in ourselves, the more we can find that trust and love within ourselves for who we are and understand what those things are and then bring them to the world, the better it is for everyone in companies and communities
yeah,
and
of course.
families all around.
But the more you can communicate that honestly, I think what it does is it creates an environment in the business where other people can communicate that honestly, and they start cooperating with each other, and they stop communicating with each other, or so that they communicate with each other better and they cooperate. But one of the things I did when I went through a realization many years ago that I was the problem. I mean, I know we've spoken with this in culture episodes. When I went through the realization that I'm the culture problem here, and I have made some decisions, etc., that have caused a problem in the business, what I did frequently was stood up in front of the staff and said, these were bad decisions. These were bad hires. This has led to this situation. I'm correcting that now, by the way, but how we got here is my fault. How we got
Mm.
here was bad decisions I made. Now, the reasons I've done that is not to publicly humiliate myself. The reason I've done that is to go, hey, no one's perfect. We all make mistakes. We keep trying, we learn, we move on. Because if I will in front of all my staff go, oh, that was a terrible decision, and I've learned from that and I'm doing something different, I'm hoping that teams within the company will begin to learn it's okay to mess up. So when you've two departments serving each other, you've got sales, administration, finance, distribution, and they're working with each other. When someone messes up, then I want them going, oh, I messed up. Let me fix this. As opposed to, because what often happens in businesses is people won't do that. They'll deny it, and now we have a problem. So the inner
They start
entrepreneur,
pointing fingers.
yes, and you create this whole mess. So when you can eliminate that in a company, everything goes so much better. And it really is simplicity. One of my favorite stories is, maybe I told you this before, but when COVID hit, my wife bought me a pair of Bose sunglasses. Bose, who make the earphones, etc. So they
Oh,
make
you haven't told me the story.
so Bose have these great sunglasses that are bone conducting. So you put them on, they look like sunglasses, but you listen to your music in them.
Fancy.
They're really fancy. About $300 for a pair of these, which I think is expensive pairs. So
That
when
is, yeah.
yeah, when it comes to COVID, and I can't meet with people anymore, but it was summertime here and we had a lovely summer. My wife presents me with these beautiful sunglasses. It's wonderful because now I'm cycling all the time by myself. I'm not cycling with groups. So I listen to podcasts and music. It was excellent. So now my 3 hour rides, I could go out and line up a couple of podcasts or whatever. I still have them. They are brilliant. I love them, but they're expensive. I ride with them for about a year, and I can't even remember what the problem was. A problem occurs with them, but I'm going, oh, I love these things so much. This is terrible. So anyway, I ring Bose. I have no idea how they're going to respond to this call, but I'm going, hey, this problem with them, and they immediately go, no problem, sir. Blah, 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 proof of purchase, all the sort of basic stuff. That's cool. They email me a little docket, send them back to us, but we're immediately sending a replacement pair to you. I'm going, brilliant. I'm getting a brand new pair. This is cool. Anyway, that's go. I go into my wife and I've ordered that. She's on Bose and she goes, have you noticed the new Bose sunglasses? And I'm going, no, she look at these. These are obviously the updated versions that are much slinkier, they're nicer, but double the battery life. And I'm going, oh, that's really, really interesting. So she goes, you should have asked him, could you had those? And I'm going, well, they were good enough to replace them for me. It's like, what can I do? Let it slide. The next day I get a phone call from Bose going, hi, how are you, Mr. Ryan? You had a service call. How happy were you with the service call? And I'm going, 10 out of 10. It was excellent. Immediately, we're going to change them out for you. I said, it was brilliant. Is there anything else we could do for you? And I said, well, while I have you there,
Since you asked.
since you are, I said, product number 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it was, that they look great. I would love a pair of those. I would be happy to pay the difference, but is there a possibility that I could get a new pair of those instead? She goes,
Mm.
hold a moment, sir. Taps her, comes back, says, yes, that's no problem. I'm reaching for my credit card. Go, that's what's the charge difference? She said, no charge. We're sending you out the upgraded pair, and there's no extra charge. So I still have them. They're wonderful. So from my faulty sunglasses, I get a brand new pair of the upgraded model. The point is, it spoke very, very well of Bose as a company. But the really, really interesting thing to me here is that someday they won't work. Other product at some stage they will be old. There'll be a new sexy pair or whatever. Who do you think I'm buying my next pair of? Who am I
For
buying?
life.
Why? I mean, I'm buying, and someone will go, "Hey, you can get this for $100 cheaper." I go, "I know, but they're expensive, and I know now that if I buy these off Bose, and if I have a problem, no problem, sir. We send you a replacement." I mean, I'm not saying I'll never buy a different pair of, yeah, bone conducting sunglasses. I'm just saying it's going to be a big deal to shift me away from Bose sunglasses at this stage. The point to me in that story is how simple is that? And you and I both know because we've personal experience where the opposite happens. And
Mm-hmm.
so the simplicity of that, it's back to the four pillars that we started all the way around. How about you treat your employees that well, like they're a customer that you want for life, and you make sure that they're treated extremely well. How do you think that's going to work out with your employee? I know I'm not saying you can't poach my employees. I'm not saying they'll never leave me. I'm saying I have some employees that I just know if no matter who get a phone call from, they'll go, I just don't wanna leave here. I love working here. I mean, I'm paid well. I just don't I like being here. I'm part of this family. I don't wanna leave. So that's the reward you get from that. When you deal with your business partners ethically and they know we can trust these people. So when other people go, "Hey, can we sell your product?" They're going, "We've been dealing with these people for 15 years. We have a relation." It just works. And the same with clients. We have clients that do business with for decades. So how does it go wrong for you in just going, I'm going to operate honorably and ethically in everything I do with all of these people? And we said this at the beginning of the show. You can do it for two reasons. I do it because it's my nature, it's because of how I like to operate. Because when you're doing business with me, you're doing business at the company, but you're doing business with me, the guy. And this is how I roll. So that's just how I do things. But what I've seen, so I didn't get into this with a great business strategy. I've just realized over the years, this is the way relationships work, possibly because of our heritage, possibly because it's how we survive the human beings. But almost everyone is wired to connect that way. Not everyone, but almost everyone is wired to connect that way. And if you do business that way, it just makes so much sense. And my experience of it, and probably everyone's experience of it, is it just makes so much sense in the long run. Of course, like the stock markets, there'll be ups and downs, but in the long game, it's just going to make so much sense. I can't think of a reason why I would do business differently. And as I was driving home from my event during the weekend, it happened that I was dropping the representative of the very big multi-billion dollar partner. I was dropping him home because he was on the way. And I was and as I'm driving home, by getting there near his house, and he's talking about the business, and he said, Paul, your business is just unique. It's just unique. There's nobody like you. And he'd spent now we supply his product or his company's products, and he spent the evening talking to all our customers. He goes, it's just unique how you your people are unique and how you deal with your clients are unique. And that makes him so when he's going back to his masters and going, these are the people that represent, he's going, these people are irreplaceable, they're unique. I didn't go to business school. It's not clever, it's common sense.
It
I re
is.
I rest my case.
But it's the interesting thing is, Paul, is it's so uncommon. My experiences with
Yes.
businesses are so bad often. I
Yeah,
mean, we don't even need to get into it because I think we've illustrated the
yeah,
point of because what sparked this whole desire to do this episode was
yeah,
based on poor experiences that I've had.
yeah.
A son's friend of yours had a very poor experience with
That's
a
right, yeah,
company that he was working
yeah,
at. It just doesn't make any sense. And I love that I didn't think that this was going to be a big conversation around human nature
yeah, but it is.
because but it is.
Yeah,
Because when you run an unethical business, it's because you're going against human nature, and human natures is to cooperate,
mm,
to create win-win
yeah,
situations, to treat each other with respect, to have a long vision in mind. That's
yeah,
actually our human nature.
yeah,
But when we do things short-sighted, when we only think about ourselves and no one else,
yeah,
we're only interested in money, we actually end up getting less of that in the long run. And we end up burning bridges. We create fires everywhere we go. We lose customers. We lose great people. Paul, every business that I interact with that has that short-sighted vision, I'm out. And
yes,
you will never get my business again.
yeah,
That's the thing. And I'm going to tell everyone that I know, don't go there.
mm.
So it's costly to
And
run a
what's
business
the
like
most
that.
expensive part of your business? Customer acquisition. Getting new
I
customers is the most expensive part of your business. When we get customers, we want them for life. So we're opening a new market at the moment, and we're looking at taking maybe 8 customers from that market into our customer base. But we're looking at how that will profit us over the next 18 months, maybe. That's when it'll begin to turn into something that's of value to us. But we're not bringing them in to do one transaction. We're bringing them into a body of customers to expand and keep doing business with us. That is so much. So our team are bringing in new customers, and then our internal team are minding them so we keep those customers. The expensive part is bringing them in. So why mistreat them and have to continually pay for marketing or like the thing about this conversation is there is no sense to the other side of it. There is no sense to an argument that says treat people badly as a business, treat your staff badly, treat your customers. So many people do it because we've experienced it, but there's zero sense to it. There's zero commercial sense to it that I can see, unless there's someone smarter would like to come on and tell us difference. But I can't see how it happens.
Well, Paul, and it's interesting because not only customers is it more expensive to acquire them, it's also more expensive to hire and train new
Of
people
course.
over and over.
Yes.
Retention is far more
Of
price
course.
effective, cost effective over time.
Yes.
So if you're churning and burning not only customers, but team members, that's costing you so
It's
much more money.
crazy.
That's why we, Paul, that's why we left our childcare company that we
Yes.
loved. We'd been there for over a year.
This is
The owner of that business decided that she was going to create all this friction with her current staff. They all left, and then she dropped new people in as if nothing happened. So we left because one, our daughter knows those teachers. We know those teachers. We know
yeah,
the programs that they're running. We
yeah.
know that our daughter loves her friends that are
That's
there.
the thing.
And
And she
they
probably
churn.
loves the teachers. At that age, she loves the teachers, you know?
She loves the teachers. Well,
Yeah,
what we do?
yeah,
Luckily our teachers end up starting a new thing, so now we're with
yeah.
them. And what we ended up going there, and believe it or not, the 6 or so kids that our daughter is friends with in
Mm,
her class, they all left too, and we're in her program too now.
wow.
So they all left.
Yeah,
So you turn over your whole staff, but you literally wiped out your customer base effectively. So
yeah.
that type of churn and burn
Bet you
is
she's blaming
so
someone else.
of course.
Yeah,
That's and I think that's a key thing because we're gonna wrap the episode here. And
yeah.
I think a couple of things that have stood out, Paul, as we've been talking. One, every business starts and ends with the owner and leader of that company. The way you operate that company, you got to
100%.
take ownership.
Yes, yeah.
Full stop.
Full stop.
If you don't do that, if so if you even if you find yourself and you're getting offended by what we're saying, you got to take the time to look in the mirror. You got
Yeah.
to start doing the inner work because
Dig
that's
deep.
where it all begins.
Yeah.
And secondly, if you can realize that, that's an incredible thing because it starts and stops with
Mhm.
you. But then if you can operate at an honorable level, if you can take the long path, just like that story you shared with Bose,
Yeah.
they got a customer for life
Yes.
because of the long path. So if you take it's in our human nature to
Yes.
cooperate and treat each other with respect. So it starts with us as leaders, and ethical treatment starts with honoring our human nature, which is we're self-interested, and when we realize that in ourselves and others, we can operate great businesses and have win-win situations all around. That to me is how I would define business ethics at a high level.
I think you've defined it extremely well, and I think that's the essence of it. What I love about this, what I love about all our conversations, is that some things never change. If we went back 100 years ago and we had a business show and had this conversation, it would be true for the people running a business 100 years ago. If we fast forward 50 years and someone stumbles across this podcast, what we're saying will be true. Why? Because it's in alignment, in flow with human nature as it has been for eons. Techniques change, marketing change, products change, but we don't change. And that's why the inner entrepreneur is so important, because this is an eternal truth that will always be true.
Well said, Paul. It's the one constant.
It's the
It's the
one
one
constant.
constant. Yep.
Who we are is
Eternal
what
truth.
makes the difference. Yeah. Who we are
That's a
is what
beautiful
makes
way to put it, man. That's a beautiful way to put it. Well, I think that's a great stopping point. I'm excited. So, Paul, we've got this is a very fun episode. I'm glad we did it too. I feel like we've
absolutely.
kind of hinted at it a while. We've talked a little bit about it, but we do have a few episodes coming up post this for the holidays and getting through the
Yeah.
holidays where we're going to do the values episode that
We
we've been
sure are.
alluding
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
quite yet.
Yeah.
We're going to do a You've got a life planning process that I'm really
Yeah.
excited to learn about. I know about it, but I have not learned about it. We're going to do an episode on
We're
your
gonna do a
life
peek
planning
into that.
process.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
which is going to be
It's
great.
something I've never spoken about before, but as I began working on it recently towards the end of the year, I thought this might be really interesting for people to see what this whole life planning process is. So I'm going to explore that with you in conversation, and hopefully we'll
Yeah.
get something out of it. So we'll do that, I think, just before the end of the year, maybe.
Yep. And then that way it's a great time to sit with and if you want to learn and leverage it into
Yeah,
the new year, that would be a great
I'm
time to
looking
do it.
forward to that. I think it's
And then
going to be
we've got a
interesting.
few episodes. We're gonna button up our culture episode, our culture series. We've done a couple episodes on culture, and then we've also got a leadership episode plan that we're gonna work through too. So
Lots in the
we've got
pipelines.
got some good stuff in the pipeline
Yeah,
there, finishing out the new year and going into the new year. So we really appreciate your time, your ears, your eyes. I
absolutely.
want to
Thank you.
say if you are enjoying the show, please share it with a friend, leave us a rating. We're now on Apple Podcast and Google Podcast, so we're on all
Spotify,
the
YouTube,
platforms.
we're everywhere. Please like,
Exactly.
subscribe, share, give us a thumbs up, comment,
All the things.
all
If you
good.
don't like it, tell us why. Give us some feedback. We're open to that too. We're not perfect. That's
Absolutely.
the whole game here. We're growth
Absolutely.
minded.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay,
All right,
guys.
Paul. Well, I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, Brandon. Until next week.
Till next week. Thank you for listening to The Inner Entrepreneur. If you found value in our content, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. New episodes will be released every Thursday at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We appreciate your attention and take care.